memorandum of understanding between Union Township and Peters Creek Sanitary regarding the project known as the Finleyville Alrama Storage Project. Whereas the project will consist of a gravity collection system with a central lift station and a store line extension, and the cost is more fully set forth in the aforesaid document.
And so what this is basically, I've been in touch with the attorney for the Peach Creek Sanitary Authority. They sent this out to relate on Monday, reviewed it, I made a couple changes, and then basically what this provides is that basically that they'll be the lead entity doing the project. The project estimated cost is $1.1 million, for lack of better things. The township will be responsible for $500,000 worth of the project. The authority would be responsible for $600,000. Anything over that estimated cost of $1.1 million will be the shared responsibility of both parties. Now, from my perspective, I think it's a good deal for the township because they're picking up a lot of the costs. TJ, I understand you've been in touch with their engineer. When do you think this project can start, by the way?
So I spoke with Lennon Smith on Friday, met with Jason Stanton and Eric Fritz, they're two engineers that are working on this project, and we had a candid conversation about the costs for each option, the grinder pumps versus the lift station. And I had a chance to review the MOU this afternoon. I generally agree with everything that's been spelled out since our office has gotten involved. To answer your question, the next steps of the Act 537 plan amendment process, permitting process. Once that 537 plan amendment is approved, they can proceed with permitting. I would think those two steps could be completed at some point by the end of this year. In a position where we could, proceed with this project as soon as 2024. But generally, I think Lennon Smith did a good job. Lennon Smith is a consulting engineer for the authority. I think they did a good job spelling out a conservative roadmap in terms of the timeline for this being able to be constructed. And that was presented in their letter from January 12th.
Before the old plan was to have grinder pumps for most of the homes up there?
Right, but when we talked at the meeting on February 2nd, we need to pursue a plan amendment and a permit amendment regardless of whether we stick with the grinder pumps or the lift station, because there are discrepancies in the number of properties and the addresses which were to be served by the grinder pumps.
What do you mean there's discrepancies?
The Nike site was listed
Yes,
in one
like
of them. There's no water at the Nike site to be having a grinder pump. There was one on Rob Lane, I believe. It was on one that wasn't on the other.
I just want to make sure people are here.
Yeah, so from our meeting on the 2nd, the 537 plan spells out a certain number of addresses and lists those addresses which are to be included in the project. That differs from the addresses and the number of properties which are to be served that's spelled out in the DEP sewage permit. So those need to be clarified, and it needs to be consistent across all of those documents, regardless of whether we were to proceed with the grinder pumps or the central lift station. So generally, the timeline's gonna be the same regardless of which option is selected.
The one thing about up there, the Rob Lane up there, they were talking about one, there's 3 houses on there, and if you're gonna hit one of them, why wouldn't you catch them all and they're all in, and not skip a couple homes, then we're gonna go through a thing of sewage problems during, over there, they should be tied in, and everybody would be tied in.
And the planning area, Steve, is something that Lennon Smith, as the consulting engineer for the lead entity, as Dennis mentioned, that would be something that they would look at. They would identify which houses are going to be tied in.
Well, they should be. I'm saying, common sense would tell you to tie them all in. Well, if you're going to be there, why just skip a couple or whatever for whatever reason? I don't know.
And before, basically, there was representations DJ being made that this project was shovel ready. Was it shovel ready?
I don't believe that. No.
Why is that? There was no
numbers don't match up for one.
The drawings that I saw for the water quality management part 2 for the sewage system in my opinion, did not have sufficient detail to be ready for construction.
And I've been involved with these since the late 1980s, from my own experience, and I've been involved. I didn't see enough detail either on the drawings themselves. So I don't know how you could get shovel ready. Plus, they needed to go through and communicate, reach an agreement with the authority before they did anything.
The property owners were never told like what it was gonna cost. I mean, that shovel ready, you have to at least let them know, you know, how much it's gonna cost them. Expect someone to just pull $10,000 out of their pocket because the store line went
Well,
down?
but usually you do the projects, and I've been involved, what you'll do is you'll have an estimated, what, you know, there's different contributions for the project. You have grant money, you have debt service, and you have your local share. Your local contribution is normally what you charge in terms of tap fees. And I don't think, was there any tap fees that you were ever aware of?
I didn't see any of that information.
I didn't see
but I
any
didn't
either.
study the full 537 plan amendment.
And,
in great detail.
and finally, my last comment to you would be from your experience, and even my experience, which is somewhat not as good as yours, having grinder pumps, we have grinder pumps, that normally leads to what?
Additional maintenance, headaches down the road.
Have you ever heard of a grinder pump coming in after a septic and then into the, like, I sat through storage workshop meetings where they were gonna pay to tap into a grinder pump and then another fee to tap into the system.
They wanted a tap-in fee for the whole system. They wanted we had to be required to take it down to the grinder pump. What we were told, the township was gonna pay for the grinder pumps to be installed and maintain them.
But they was only gonna pump the juice after the septic. You were
We
still gonna
had
have to have
to
check
cut it,
done.
we had to cut our own system, have a qualified plumber, licensed plumber, cut our septic system, pipe going into our septic tank, and run it down to the grinder pump. From the grinder pump, from that grinder pump on, it was all township.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, cause I looked through the records,
And what I saw, the township was gonna charge you to tap into their grinder pump, and then Peters Creek was gonna charge you
No, they were
to
gonna
tap
charge
into their
us a
system.
maintenance fee for that grinder
Oh,
pump.
yeah.
What was the
It
maintenance
was like
fee?
80s, it was
It was
It was up there.
ridiculous.
What was
up
it?
there.
I don't remember offhand, I have the paperwork back at the house.
I think it was somewhere in the $80 or something.
$80 a month,
It's like,
$80 a month.
Plus you pay sewage to
plus
the,
the sewage.
well, wasn't there 3 tap-in fees?
There
3
was
different
multiple-
ones? We were there.
multiple tap-in
We
fees.
were at that meeting.
It was
And
crazy, because the township was gonna own the pump, they were gonna have to pay to tap into the pump.
And still get their
then they
septic
were gonna
pumped.
Pay to tap from the pump to the main line.
But they still had to pump septics.
And then they were gonna pay maintenance on the pump.
alright, what were you gonna say, sir?
I'm waiting to hear what's going on, that's it.
Well, so what we're doing is we're moving in the direction of having a lift station.
I understand that, and I'm fine with that, I'm happy for it. I'd rather
I'll
have
tell
a
you
list.
that Peters Creek Sanitary spoke highly of the meeting that you had. I believe your girlfriend or wife or whatever was at that
Yeah.
meeting too, so
She
she was
was
at
there.
that meeting, but they said it was very productive, they spoke highly. Said that they had concerns starting now with a new engineer that it would delay or, you know, you wouldn't, but they said it was, that you guys must do a lot of storage.
Well, Banks and,
because-
I've dealt with
I
Banks and
appreciate
engineers since, again, my first project was with Banks and
We just wanna get this over with, cause we've had nothing but harassment for this for so long.
Mhm.
And it put my mother-in-law in the hospital, she almost died over the stress. That caused an injury, 3 injuries, 2 weeks later after they dug all that down there.
they dug what, they dug?
Down in our yard, in Furnace yards too.
They've been targeted as being the cause of problems.
Yeah.
And even though they were getting passing dye tests, they were targeted as being the cause of the problems. One of the causes of the problem, not the only.
But it's the old saying, shit rolls down hill.
And then it gets to be.
Unless you're the
We're
boss.
right next to the problem, so guess what, we're gonna get paid for it.
Alright,
Nature of the beast.
we'll get things worked out for you, sir, okay?
Yeah.
Alright,
Okay, so, I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding between Union Township and PCSA